Hello everyone, welcome to this global GEG broadcast. We'll be making a start shortly, and while we're waiting for everyone to arrive, why not... Hello everyone, welcome to this global GEG broadcast. We'll be making a start shortly, and while we're waiting for everyone to arrive, why not head into the chat, let us know who you are, where you're from, your Twitter handle, and if you've got any questions that you'd like us to answer during the course of this evening, let us know there as well. Also, if you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button to make sure you stay up to date with all of the events being organised by us at Global GEG. We'll be making a start really soon. Thanks for joining us.
Hello everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited for this presentation. I've been waiting to give it for a while, actually. So as we're going to begin today, I just wanted to let you know that I am joined in the background. I'm very excited by Robin and Philomena. So Philomena is going to be progressing my slides today. I'm so lucky. Robin's going to be checking in with comments. So feel free to type anything if you haven't already shared where you're from. I'm sure some of you have already shared what your colors are, so we will be talking through all of that momentarily. And on the next slide, Philomena, if you have not taken the survey yet, like any teacher, I know that some of you haven't. So if you haven't taken that survey, that's the bit.ly for it. Thank you so much to Robin for putting that in the chat for everybody. And I'm going to be using that throughout my presentation today. So you really will want to have taken it. So if you're here and you said, oh no, I didn't take the survey, you can go take the survey right now. Steph, I wouldn't call out, it's not us Greens who haven't taken it actually. So we'll get to that in a moment. Yeah, nice try. Some people do wait to come, like they want to know what it's about before they take it. So I get why you might say that. Okay, so in terms of this, please get to it. Am I doing a good job of filling some time while people are taking the survey? The next couple of slides are going to be my intro. So if you are heading to take that survey, just know that you can rewind back and understand what my why is, why I choose to do this, what it's all about, and some of the background information about taking surveys in general. So that'll help you there. So if you haven't taken it, if you have, start to put your color in the chat and get people all excited about that. If you haven't, go ahead and take that survey right now. And my next few slides will give you a couple minutes to do so. So here, if you wouldn't mind progressing to the next slide for me. Thank you very much. So Philomena's going to progress that one. Perfect. Okay, so back one. There we go. All right, so I'm going to give you my story. And this really is going to take you through why I actually started to do this. So hi, I'm Stephanie Rothstein. I realize I never even said my name. I'm one of the 6 founders of Global GEG, proud to be working with tons of leaders who are amazing, 2 of which are in the background. I am also the head of the co-chair, the co-leader of GEG NorCal. The way that I actually came to this group is that I'm both an innovator and a trainer. And so that has helped me to connect with all of these amazing people. In terms of my background on personality assessments, it goes back a little ways, actually. So this is my 18th year of education. I went to UC Berkeley, which is why you see that Cal at the top there. And it's what actually brought me to living in the Bay Area. I grew up in Southern California. And when I was at Cal, I worked for an organization at the time called CALSO, Cal Student Orientation. And the CALSO program was all about, if any of you out there are people who lived in the dorms and worked for your schools, that was me. So I was an RA during the year. Yeah, go Bears, Stacy. I was an RA during the year and a PA, a program assistant. And then during my summers, I worked for Cal Student Orientation. And when I was there, I had a boss, Patrick, and for one of my first years working in more of a leadership capacity there. And when you were a leader of the orientation groups, they had you take a personality assessment, because I worked in a team. There were 4 of us, 4 student leaders, and we worked together to run all of the student orientation programs for the school. So that is thousands and thousands of students coming in, and we each took a part. I was overseeing freshmen, somebody else was doing parent stuff, other people were doing transfer students, and then there was someone else overseeing the logistical pieces. So we all had our roles, and one day my boss came in and said, okay, I want you to take this Myers-Briggs personality assessment. It's 500 questions. And I about died. But I took the assessment, and the assessment essentially, it told me a lot about myself that I didn't know if I was ready to hear it or not. So it was a very, very, very long assessment. So some of these ones that are up here, I've done them all. I mean, if it's out there, I've done it because I've really tried to do my research about why I like this one. It doesn't mean other ones are bad. And really, you'll probably get the same information. So I've done Myers-Briggs. My school did the Strengths Finder or Strengths Quest. In a different program I was in, we did one with animals. And then there's that 16 personalities, which really is another name for the Myers-Briggs one. A lot of these are really rooted in Myers-Briggs, if you didn't know. And so is the colors one, actually, when I looked up the history of the colors one. So that one was initiated by someone named Ketterman in 1972, who had worked with Myers-Briggs and Briggs. So it's just interesting to know, like, it all kind of revolves in the same place. In my now 18th year of education, I chair a project-based learning pathway, a design thinking pathway that combines English, history, and science. It's called the LEAD pathway, that orange circle. And students are all working in teams the entire time. So it's really important that we begin in a place of understanding how to work with other people and how to collaborate. And when I was trying to figure out how, like, I had all of these rubrics on grading them on collaboration, and I could give them projects, but to actually get them to talk to each other, I needed to give them something that helped them understand why and how to do that. And that's where the personality assessments came in. And I thought back to my own experience when I was an orientation counselor, and when my boss sat me down after he saw my results, and he helped kind of coach me through what I would need when I was working in a team. Based on my personality, how would I interpret information? How would I hear feedback? And those things have stuck with me to this day. I wrote to him as soon as I became a teacher, and I thanked him because it really helped me grow. And I'm going to talk about personality colors. Some people had asked before this started, are they fixed? All of those pieces, I will get there. So I'm going to talk to you about that in just a moment. But you can go ahead to the next slide, Philomena. Thank you. And then, so really when I'm thinking about like personality assessments and those pieces, go right ahead, Philomena, if they're fixed or not. Just remember, like when Patrick was talking to me, there were some things that were hard to hear. And so I keep going back to these norms to help me through it. One back, Philomena. You will use them in all these places. We'll get there. Okay, so you're going to need all the colors. We need them all. So please do not feel like your color is in any way bad. If we didn't have them all, it wouldn't work. And I will talk to you about why it wouldn't work. We need them all. So we need all the colors. I would say the best way to use them is to use them for good, right? To figure out how can you actually find strengths in other people. And as we move forward in whatever conversations you're about to have, with most things, assume best intentions. So give people the benefit of the doubt before judging what they've said. So please, please, please keep those norms in mind as we move forward. And then let's talk about where you can use these. So that's the next slide, Philomena. So the next slide is going to be on where you can use them. Oh, well, I don't know. Is that just me, Robin? Maybe I'll pull Robin up here. There we go. She's back. Okay. So uses of it. Here we go. So uses are, you can use it anywhere. And I do. So people are often saying, are you judging me? And it's not judgment at all, but I am for sure analyzing you because I need it. It helps me know how to be a better teacher, person, wife, partner, mom, like I need it. So I'm analyzing whenever, and here's where I use it. I use it in my classroom. I co-chair my pathway, so I use it with the team that I co-chair. It's here in this place because I wanted to use it with Global GEG, and I asked the leaders, I said, should we do this as an internal session? And they said, make it big. So it's for more than just our internal group, but a lot of it was, I know that some people just need a way to know how to talk to each other. So that's why we're here. And then I use it with my parents at back to school night. I use it with all groups and teams. And I honestly use it in my life. I messaged Bonnie the other day, is whenever my husband talks to me, I'm like, I know he means this, but he can't say it that way. And in my own head, I have to translate it. And it's hard because he won't say it with the feeling in it. And in my head, I'm like, okay, what he's trying to say is he's just hurt by that, but it's not coming out like that. So this really helps me. It helps me just have any conversation with people and try to hear it through a lens that would be theirs. It's still my lens because I'm always going to see the world through my glasses, these blue ones and others. But it helps me at least have a bit of empathy for what they might be thinking or feeling when they're sharing something with me. At the same time, I don't want to assume. So it really is a way to help me interpret what I think they're saying and then ask some clarifying questions. Okay, so we're going to keep going. Yeah, there's lots in there to unpack about why people say things. And yes, Luis has been my data master in the background. I so appreciate it. And we'll talk about what he did, which makes me forever in his debt. Okay, so the next slide, Philomena. We'll get there. We'll get there. Yes and no. We'll get there sometimes. Maybe with my husband at least. Okay. All right. So I'm finally going to get there. So if you were taking yours, hopefully that gave you, I tried to do about 10 minutes was my goal. And I tried to give you 10 minutes to take yours if you were hurriedly taking it. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Make your husband take it. I agree. I did. Okay. So if you're a blue, I am starting with you on purpose. So if you're a blue, my blues are those awesome people in a group who they kind of are the glue. They help to ensure they'll turn to that person next to them and ask them, are you okay? Are you good? I haven't heard from you in a while. They're those people that will naturally check in with people around them because blues are guided by their heart. So they care about everyone around them. And again, every color is great, but blues are guided by their heart. And I'm going to talk about how that then, I knew you were a blue, Amber. You didn't have to tell me. I'm not. I know you're a blue. You know what's so funny is as everybody's been sharing theirs in our chats at Global, inside I'm like, yeah, it makes perfect sense. So blues are our mediators. Blues tend to approach the world kind of with that cup half full. They want to be optimistic with everything. They want to give people the best chance possible. They tend to be people that are all about peace and harmony. There are true romantics. So if you want to get to a blue, I often think about if any of you, I know as an English teacher, I use logos, ethos, pathos in my class, or pathos, depending on your pronunciation. And if you don't, like some of these definitely apply there, right? So if you're a blue, like Alfonso, a true blue, if it's out of 50 and he's 47 blue, then you know, like when he's speaking, it is from the heart. And when you speak to him, you're going to also want to speak his language, right? So you really want to think about how others are thinking about you and how you think about others. And that's what this is going to help give you. So when I was saying that, that people who are blue tend to think about things that are fun, you'll notice I've given my own little Bitmoji here that has me. I tried to come up with ones that I think go with this color, right? So like something fun, I don't know, if you know me, you know I love ice cream. So it provides me a lot of joy. So that's me as an ice cream. Then these, if you're going to give this, so what I'm going to do in this presentation is this is the same presentation I give to students. But I'm going to try to give you at a few moments, I'm going to try to pop out and give you the meta, like the reason why. So when you present it or you do it with students or your team, you know how to guide them through, okay? So this part, with the glasses, this is when you're talking about the way that others see this color. This is when you're going to talk about these paper clips, kind of how to work together. And this is positivity. This is like, what is the most positive attributes about this color? And then these are how you, the way that the world sees them, what they're most known for, okay? So blues are most known for their heart. They're most known for being able to mediate, have a conversation, and they're most known as peacekeepers. Okay, and with that, let's go to that next slide, Philomena. So, so for my blues, what I'm going to talk about for each color is what's the best way to give feedback. So what I often say to blue students in my classroom is when I give a person who is blue any feedback, even if it's really good, the first thought of someone that's an intense blue, I'll say it like that, is, does she like me? It is always the first thought. Does this mean she doesn't like me? Why is she telling me this? So blues, as joyous, as kind as they are to the world around them in checking in, they need somebody to do that same care for them, because that often is what doesn't happen. So for a blue, when I've often talked about providing that feedback sandwich, beginning with the positive, giving some feedback, and closing with a positive, that is going to be super useful for somebody who is blue. And it isn't in any way a strategy. It is truly authentic for me because I want them to actually hear my feedback. So if I know somebody is a blue, my students, I'll go through how I use it at the start of the school year to know. But when I'm giving them feedback, the first thing I say is, you know, you're a great writer. I really love what you did here, here, and here. Here's one area where I think that we could work on, and it should be a goal for this writing, for your revision, and for future writing. So let's work on that together. How can I help you? Right? It's very different than telling somebody you suck at something. You really want to give them feedback that helps them grow. So if nobody can hear your feedback, the feedback is pointless. So don't bother giving it if you can't give it in a way that people can hear it. And a blue will only hear you if you can connect with them. I would argue that everyone needs a connection, but the way to connect might be different. Okay, so the next color on there, Philomena, after blue, I purposefully did this. So my oranges who are like, when's it gonna be about me? Oranges, it's your turn. It's finally your turn. Okay, so my oranges, I love you. Okay, oranges are wanting movement. They're probably standing watching this presentation. They might even, yeah, Philomena's like, I'm an orange, right? Sometimes I call my oranges some of my own kids, right? They can be a little squirrel-like at times, right? Like, so, or the dog to squirrel is maybe what I should say, right? Squirrel. Like, what's new? What's next? What's exciting? Where should I go? So oranges, while blues are asking other people about stuff, oranges really want to know at the heart of it, how is this going to affect me? How is this going to affect me? I will get to that, Stuart. For sure, I will get to that. So I'm going to talk about different age groups in a moment. So oranges want to know, what is the impact on me? How does this affect me? They also want to know that they are thought of. So I'll get to that when I talk about particular feedback. Oranges are often guided by competition. So oranges tend to be people who, not always, but who tend to be motivated by sports, movement, right? Those two things go together. They like celebrations. They don't mind being that center of attention. Oranges can get up at the last minute. Like if they're in a group presentation, the orange would go, yeah, don't worry about it. I got this. Let me just get up there and, quote, wing it. How many times have I heard that from my students, right? Those are your oranges. Other colors will never say the words wing it. So if you're orange, you're fine with that. You feel good about that. Maybe you hone in on that. That is your territory. You can wing it. And for some, they look really good doing it, and they're probably better because some oranges, if they over practice, it sounds too rehearsed. When they get up there, it sounds authentic if they can just talk. So it really depends, but they tend to be good on their feet. I would also say oranges are, how do I say this? I know how to say it. I'm just trying to think of the right way. Oranges are my people that can get themselves out of sticky situations because they know how to like smile and work it. So my oranges use their personality for the best way possible. You know those students, you know those people. Whenever I'm talking to a kid, it's that kid that'll go, come on, do you really have to do that? You don't need to call home. We can work this out, Miss Rothstein, right? That's an orange. That is an orange. And you love them. I do. I love them. They know how to talk me up. They tell me I'm so great at stuff. Then I don't want to give them a punishment if they're my own children. They know what they're doing. Okay, so that's an orange. And I love them very much. And we rely on them for all of those last minute people. Yeah, oranges likely have less imposter. I don't know that they don't. I think we all have it, but maybe a little less. Or at least their color allows them to jump in and maybe forget it. So I gave myself the pineapple here because I thought that would be lovely. Yes, that's a great way to put it, Jessica. Oranges are for sure charming. I think of that when I think of an orange. Okay, so the next slide, when it comes to giving feedback to an orange, that next slide, when you are really trying to think about, okay, how do I give feedback? Oranges like to move from one thing to the next to the next. They do not want to stay stagnant. So if you give a ton of feedback, like you write a paragraph on a paper for an orange, they just want to chuck it out the window. What you want to do is get to the point for somebody that's an orange. You maybe want to bullet point your feedback, have the specific notes, and you also want to make it specific to them. I mean, that's going to be helpful for everyone, but they want to know that your feedback is not generic. They want to know that you didn't just stamp it on everybody's paper, that everybody did a good job. They want to know that you read theirs. So make sure you write their name when you are giving feedback. Make sure that you are actually addressing specific things that they have brought up so that when they're reading your feedback, their question in the back of their head is, did she even read my stuff? You don't want that. You want them to actually care about it. So you'll want to do that. You'll also want to help them to know what you're doing next, but not a huge preview or else they'll get bored. So you might want to say something like, this will be super helpful in 2 units when we focus on blank. And then they'll go, okay, I'll pay attention, right? So like, yeah, Lance, he just wants, give him the main stuff. Okay, my next color. My next color, I think I'm going to green. Okay, so greens tend to be our people that ask why. So yeah, I know Steph, Robin, you all were saying like that I am a total green. You are right, and we can talk about that. But I do have some other colors. So I'm actually I'm a green, and secondary is a blue, and I'm going to talk about some of that, which probably makes sense on the analysis. Okay. So greens are always asking why. It likely is why I'm in a design-based thinking pathway where we have to start with the why question. Otherwise, and I realized even before entering into that pathway that was my life. So greens really are people who are into analytics. They're people who are questioning. They need to know why. So it could be that a green didn't take the survey, or when they took the survey, Steph Howell's husband, when they took the survey the first time, they just put all ones because they wanted to know what, they wanted to get a certificate to know what is it actually going to tell me. Once I've analyzed this analysis, then I'll go about and bother taking it, right? So they're like, greens are always thinking of the back information. Greens are also people who, it might be that on the outside, it appears slower to start. But the truth is that what a green is doing is analyzing the situation. They want to know, how did other people start this? What did they do? How did it work? Did it not work? Why didn't it work? And then I'll give you my response before jumping out and giving it first, right? An orange would be fine to jump in and say it. A gold wants to know, am I doing it right? And we'll get there in a minute. But a green wants to know what has been done before so that I don't make that same mistake. A blue just wants to know, how can I help everybody to work together on this? And what can I add that's going to make it positive, joyful, and have people hear me? Right. So our greens here, when this first piece is about strategy, right? So greens are strategic. Greens are always questioning why. Greens sometimes can be independent. So they'll come up with their own ideas no matter what other people are talking about. and I'm saying this with much love, I call our greens, myself included, right, are like fog machine students, and I'll get to why that is in a moment, but like that pie in the sky, dream it big, what could it be? They also they tend to be like visionary, futurist thinking. They tend to also be kind of cool or calm in situations because they're sitting there like mapping out and looking at what's going on. And sometimes can be interpreted, I didn't go into any ways that other people can really see some people, but some people might see us like as critical, you know? So I often have to think about how am I saying something, because if I'm analyzing it, people don't always want to be psychoanalyzed, right? Like they don't want my opinion of what they're doing all the time. So how do I say it? How do I approach things with kindness and with empathy? And just knowing that about myself. Okay, so green can mean sometimes that you're cautious, for sure. It can mean that you are wanting to look at the world and know what you're getting yourself into before you do it. Analytical, yeah. I mean, there are going to be many, many ways to interpret it, and that's one of the things that I like about this, but they all tend to fall in a similar category. So on the next slide, when it comes to giving feedback to a green, when it comes to giving feedback to somebody, you really want to be thinking about what is it and understanding their thought process. So often before I give feedback to a green, I will ask them questions. I will call them up to my desk, and I do this for most of my papers that are written. I only give digital feedback, but in order to give it, I usually have, if we were in person, I do it with the student right there, and I record our conversation with us actually talking. So, so when we were virtual, I would do the same thing. I would have the big group working on something, and I would take small time to meet with a few students at a time to review what they were writing and provide some feedback. I provide general things to the class and then small things. So for my greens, yeah, greens are always asking questions, but there are certain kinds of questions. So for my greens, whenever I'm meeting with them about their stuff, my question often is, oh, all right, tell me a little bit more about that. That's the first piece. Okay, and why did you choose to explain it in that way? And let them talk you through their explanation. Because often, sometimes, maybe not often, sometimes what they put to paper might not be the full story of what they were thinking. They may have edited it as they were writing it. And when you get the full story as an instructor or as another person, you might understand their thinking better and can coach them through what they should do differently or how they could rework it. And I could ask them another question. They want to know that they have done this themselves. So don't take it away from them and provide. I would argue that's for everybody. But certain colors will get more frustrated by that process of you not providing the answer. Greens actually prefer it. So if you provide a green with a question, some feedback, and more questions, they will go and work on that and bring it back. And then your next conversation involves more questions and feedback and more questions, right? That's how you keep doing it. Okay, so then for my last one, I forced this upon you, my gold, and you're so pissed off at me. So we're ending with golds, and it's not the end of the presentation, but I'm ending at least the color explanations. So the next slide, Philomena. So my golds, you've been so patient, my rule followers. Philomena, next slide. Philomena, next slide. Is she not hearing me, Robin? There we go. Okay. All right. So notice, okay, I thought I was being pretty funny here, but we'll see if other people do. I put myself as different foods for all the other colors, but for my friends who are gold, I let you hold the fruit because that's the way that the world works. Okay. So so golds are like, they want to know what it's about, and they want to know that there is an order and a system. So golds do really well with lists. Golds are who I turn to when I say, when was this due? Or when is this due? Hopefully, if you're not behind, right? Like, what's the due date on that? A gold is like, come on, people. Did I do a good Steph Howell interpretation? Okay, so our golds are our people that are like, duh, we said it was in 2 weeks. 2 weeks at this time, on this day, in this month, in this year, right? They know it, okay? So golds always know, they will know. They have a calendar, they've already put it in there, they made it. As the teacher is talking, the gold is writing it in. And then the teacher, maybe, who isn't gold, said, what day did I just tell you? And they'll turn to that student and the gold will be like, Miss Rothstein, you said it was due on that Friday before Labor Day, whatever it is, right? Like that's who I turn to because I need that. I need my golds. I need all the colors. Golds will keep me in line. So golds are going to be the people that are really, they work best with structure. Now, other colors might not. So it's about a balance here. So golds often ask one question. They will say to me, what do you want? That's what they say to me as a student. So I give them this open-ended project, and a gold will come to me and say, yeah, but what do you want? Can I see some examples? And I'll say, it's hard for the golds on this one. And I'll say, I can show you some, but only after you've come up with some of your own ideas, because I don't want you to follow this exact example, because it's not an example. It's just an exemplar or something that is showing you a possibility. It isn't the way I want to know what you want to do. So in my open-ended class, sometimes I have to coach a gold, but golds are amazing. They're going to be in your group. They're going to keep people working. They're going to keep people in line. Golds will be like if you have a gold in a group, stuff will get done and done on time. What you want to help a gold with is the ability to let other people help. And it's said with much love, because a gold is typically on time and fast. So then they're waiting for everybody else to get their stuff done. And then they're sitting there wondering what to do. So for my students that are gold and other colors, if they finish things early, this is why I often have a choice board. I often have kind of degrees of projects, way to deepen things, so that when a gold finishes, they're not then getting angry at other people in their team, but instead they're going, well, what else could I do that would help my grade? Or what else could I do that would help me understand this topic better, right? But golds are often asking me, am I doing this right? So on the next slide, Philomena, like you have to keep in mind that golds tend to be more like on the perfectionist side. I think of my golds, yeah, they want the example. I know you do. I do give it to them. I have a whole folder of them, but I wait for them to come up with an idea first. And then I say, great job on that idea. Do you want to do you want to look at how your idea compares with other students that I've had in the past? Here's that folder. I won't share it out with the whole class at the start, but I will share it with my golds when they need it. So it's there. It's there. I don't hide anything. The truth is I put it on my learning management system, but the golds are the only ones that find it. So golds find it right away, and then they're fine. And everybody else is asking, can I have something? And I'm like, well, it's been on the website for 2 weeks, but it's fine. Okay. Yeah. Yes. She is the goldest of the gold. I swear I should just like in my lesson explanation of this, I should put her picture. Okay, so my golds, though, when it comes to giving feedback to a gold, you have to keep in mind that if a gold is turning something into you, they have already done the work and the rework. They've looked at it, they've re-looked at it, they've checked if it matches an example, they've checked your rubric to make sure that it actually follows all of the key pieces. And then if you tell them it doesn't, they're going to tell you, actually, it does. And here's how. And here are the 3 places where I did exactly what you said. So why is my score this? Right? And it isn't that they're upset with you. They're upset that you're not following the procedure that you told them that you would. So I have one of my kids is for sure, her gold comes out when she is most mad. And she analyzes every word that I say. And she said, but that doesn't mean that. Right? Like, so for a gold, you have to be able to say it like you mean it and hold true to your word, because part of what they respect is that people follow through with what they say they are going to do. And that comes through with the way that they have rubrics, the way that you explain an assignment, the way that you give a deadline. right? So yeah, gold help provide us some order. But for my golds, right, like when I'm in a group setting, what I try to help a gold understand is the value of the other colors, which is why when we do this at the start of my school year, I really work hard to help a gold understand that they are going to get their stuff in, and they're going to work hard, and I'm going to be really proud of them because they're going to grow this year and they're going to push themselves. But I want them to see that other students are doing that. It just might be in a different capacity, in a different way. And so a way to interpret the world that everyone is working to the best of their abilities, just the way that we all do it might be different. And that is okay. I think that's hard. It's hard. And I often tell my students it's super hard. I mean, if it was easy, we'd all be getting along, right? So so on the next slide, Philomena, okay, so for this one, I'll tell you when to push it, Philomena. Okay, so this first group here on the left, is it your left when you're seeing it? I think it is, yes. Okay, so I often get the question around, I'm gonna answer two things on this slide. I get questions around what happens around how you team people and what happens if everybody is one color together, and about age groups. So I'm going to get to that one because I think Stuart asked about age groups. So I'll get there soon. Okay. So I would also say that depending on the degree to which you are a certain color, it is kind of how deep it is within your soul. So if you are a 49 of something, you are definitely that color, right? If and yet there are some people, when you take surveys, some of you never give a 0 or a 1 or a 5, right? You're going to always give something in the middle because you're sitting there analyzing the survey and going, well, it could be sometimes. So your numbers are all going to be close together, but you've got to take it to mean that, like, what is your highest one and why was it that? Okay, so I have done this before just as a fun experiment in my class. I put everybody in teams with their color groups. And I said, you're going to present to the class on what your color group is about. I didn't give them this explanation. I only gave it to the people that were that color. So only they knew what a blue was, what everything was. So when they come back in, I'm just going to paint the picture for you. I'm sure you can start to guess them now. My blues, when I'd walk out, because I could trust them, I put them in the hallway, right? Everybody needed a spot. My blues were like sitting in a kumbaya, like peaceful circle. And they were all holding hands and talking about how much they loved each other and how they're best friends, and started singing together. And they came up with a fun song when they even came up to present. And there they are with their poster, and they're like, no, Brittany was so great. No, it was John who did this. He's wonderful. Like, it is so, and you just like want to cry because they're so sweet to each other. And they end it with a hug and a high five and a team cheer. And I love them. And they like make me feel so good. And then my blues go and sit down. And then next up, Philomena, are my oranges. So then you can imagine, as a teacher, this is when I also let my oranges in the hallway on purpose. Otherwise we wouldn't be able to hear what's going on. So go ahead and hit the next one. So the orange color comes up, Philomena. And I'm guessing you can guess where the orange is. Philomena, my orange Philomena. There you go. I love her. Okay, thank you. So these are my oranges, okay? They went outside and they said to each other, how much time did she give us? She gave us 10 minutes. Okay, you, get in that locker. You, go run around the building. You, headstand. Okay, somebody be the lookout. That's my orange, okay? And then they're like, all right, guys, there's 60 seconds before the presentation. Who's talking? Who's talking? You, go. And that's it. Then they get up and they say, all of a sudden, they sit like they didn't do a thing, you know? And the person gets up and they're like, oranges, and they've got their paper. So oranges, we like action. Like, all of a sudden they do it. They pull it together and they present on their color. Now, I still have to go get that kid out of the locker, but they present on their color. Okay, and then my next one are my greens. And this is why I call my greens my like fog machine team. So my greens come in and their poster is totally blank. Okay. And the poster is always blank if it's a green, because they sat there for the 10 minutes talking to each other and arguing about what should go on the poster and the way it should go on the poster and why they should put it that way on the poster and who should write it, and who's the best at writing, and why should we actually pick them, and what does it mean, and why should we even care about this, and what does Miss Rothstein want, why is she psychoanalyzing us, forget this, screw this, and then they stand up and give the presentation. And they stand there with a blank poster, no kidding, and they will argue in front of the presentation for their presentation about why their poster is blank. And I am agreeing, but I am less argumentative because I have blue. All right, so, and then my final one, my last and final one are my golds. And so my golds will stand there and it'll be like the most beautiful of posters, right? It's got drawings in different spots. They've made sure that whoever is doing the writing, it is the neatest handwriting of all. It's straight. Somebody took a ruler to make the lines on the poster. I didn't give them a ruler and they were pissed that I didn't give them a ruler. So somebody went and got a ruler. They got out their supplies from their bag and they did it themselves in more colors than what I gave them. Because golds want to know, again, that they are doing it right. Okay, so my golds finished early and were sitting there waiting. My greens argued until the last minute and I had to call them in. My oranges ran and like needed movement. And my blues held their lovely circle. So my teams, while we got somewhere, we didn't really get where we needed to go. Because oftentimes what I might argue is that my golds get an idea and they are amazing, but unless somebody else can provide some other idea for them, they won't know that maybe there's more out there, right? They see it, we all see it the way we see it. And so if a gold has seen it on their path, they need a blue to come in and say, actually, it would be really helpful if you connected with the audience first. And then they need an orange to go, I can be that showman for you. Let me just get up there and I'll get the crowd into it. And then they need a green to go, let's think big picture, right? But my greens, oh, I forgot to tell you the fog machine. My greens in their argument, what they would say is, well, we wanted a fog machine at the start of this presentation, but nothing was available. I swear I heard that during the presentation. Okay, yeah, I'm not joking. Okay, the next slide. The survey that you took is called the True Colors survey, Gary, True Colors. And it's a survey it's a Ketterman survey from 1972. I'll talk about how to use it with other age groups as well. But the reason I picked this one is because I think it's easier to interpret than some of the ones with lots of different letters. So colors can be applied in many ways. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so this one, okay, I'm going to tell you a story. That's why stuff isn't on here. Okay, so here is how, and I wrote a blog on this that'll get put up in the chat, but I wrote this last year. I'm going to show you what I do. So at the start of the school year, I give this presentation, but I don't give it until students have taken the survey. Okay, so I give them, what I've always done is I've given it to them on paper. And so one idea is there's paper ones. I'm happy to put that in the folder that I'll share out in a moment. But the paper survey, right, I wanted something digital and Luis was so kind to help digitize this one. So the paper version, one thing that you could do is if maybe you're doing this in a math class, it does ask them to add up the columns for themselves. So there are ways to use it where maybe it's a part of your lesson. Maybe as like your addition practice, you're having students answer these questions and understand a survey and add up the columns and know what a column and a row is and then plot it on a graph, right? They could do all of that stuff. When it came to doing things in a virtual realm, I can't sit there and show students how and show you how to add up the columns and answer those questions. So digitizing it got you excited. So what I normally would do is on the first day of school, we do something fun together. Usually it's a design thinking like challenge that we do on that first day. And then I end it by saying your homework is to take this personality assessment. You're going to come to class already having taken it. And then I don't tell them, just like I didn't tell you, what it means. And then they come to class eager to learn, what does it mean? What does it say about me? So the first thing that I do on that second day is this first picture, Philomena, is, and I cleared it with her and her family. So it's in here. She was already on my blog. So you're going to see this is Kayla. She's already graduated. She's like a whole grown-up person now. So this is years ago. So I actually have physical paper in my classroom or cardstock. I fold it in half and I just have the students simply write their name on the color, their dominant color. If they're two colors, I have them physically cut it in half and glue it and tape it together. Usually I don't see more than two, but if you're that unicorn that we talked about in our group where you have three, then they'll put three together or four. That's perfectly fine. But it would need to be that it's the exact same number, like the exact same number. So you might want to argue your way out of it, but it's the same number. You can take the exam different days, different times, different years, and you'll get a different reaction. You'll get it. So it can change, and I'll talk through that in a moment. But what I would do is I would have every student write it. I also have students write certain things on the back. So as students are working, I might have them draw certain things on the back as answers to questions because I collect these. So then it helps me get to know them even better. Then I go around while they're answering those, and some students have finished, and I take their picture like you see here. And then the next thing that I do with it, Philomena, is I take those pictures and I import them. And I found that iPhoto was super helpful. That's what I had, but you can use anything. I import them. And then the next piece that I do, Philomena, is I print them out. And then I print them out and I laminate them. And so when I am going to make a team, I try my very best to organize a team that has, if I have it, I start with the golds. So this is my useful tip. I start with my golds and I spread you out. And golds, sometimes as a reward, I put you with other golds later on. I give you somebody else that gets you. But at the start, to help every team, if I have enough, I put a gold in every group. Then I go back through and I look, do I have a blue for every group? Do I have a green for every group? And typically I'll get to numbers and percentages. Then I start to fill in my oranges. And I do that purposefully at the end because oranges tend to it will impact personality, who they're working with. So I often am looking do those two people balance well? Let me split them up and then I'll put this other person. And I think that they will help this person be more focused and this person stay here. And right, we are already doing this, but now I'm doing it with the color piece in mind. And students know I'm doing it. So I'm not doing it in any way that's hiding it from them. I say I'm going to be organizing you where there'll be mixed groupings based on personality colors. And that's my goal. And then other times in the year, I'll let them pick. But as they're picking for themselves, I'll even say, are your teams balanced? Are you picking people that are going to help you succeed in this project? That are going to help you have the best outcome, that are going to give you perspectives that are different from your own? So I'm often asking them that question. Okay, and then the next piece, Philomena, the next one. So when I go, it's hard to see it here. So if anybody needs some help with it, I'm happy to. But I physically write on my pictures. I couldn't get back in my classroom to take new pictures. So these were from my blog post. So I physically write on the pictures themselves. So when they're in a team, I often have between 6 and 8 teams for a class. I will write for group 1, I'll put a number 1 and I'll put it in a certain color Sharpie, those really thin Sharpies in that left-hand corner, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. And then that tells me what table they're sitting at. It also tells me what group they were in. When I go to make the next project, I put them in a new table and with new people. So I look to ensure they're not with any other people who also have a number 1 for that first project. And then I put the next number next to the next one. System I started to do a couple years ago and it's really helped me. Okay, and then the next piece for it, I then take all of those, I sit there at a table. I need a big table. I also could certainly do this on the computer, and I've tried to digitally do it, but honestly for me, seeing it, physically moving their pictures, even if I'm here at home, I will have these printed out for myself, because for me, I can group them, I can see it, I can physically write on it, and I can certainly do that in a digital way, but there's something about my system. I'm gonna make sure that I have my little poster board at home. Okay, so I'll show you the poster board. So my elementary teachers will know this very well. And I was gifted this from somebody in my neighborhood that's an elementary school teacher. So it's one of those calendar charts where it's got the month, days of the week, it's got the little specific, the pocket. And I I was given one, and then I found it at here where I am. We have a company called Raft, where it's like people have donated things that teachers can then go and look through, and I found so many there. So you can find these at any kind of teacher supply, but I use these to help me do my groupings. And then I have little cards that say team 1, team 2, team 3, team 4, and those sit, you can't see them, but I promise they're sitting in front of those spots. And then I do it by period. So as I make new groups, that's what students see when they first walk into a classroom. If I made it physically, I'd take a picture of it. If I made it digitally, I'd show them up, and send it to them, and then they know what group am I in. So that's how I do the teams, and I'm really strategic about how I put them into those groups. I'm also strategic about teams that I choose to join. So you might not know that, but I often think about, who am I working with? Who am I choosing to work with? Who will help balance me? And it isn't about finding somebody that is exactly like me, because I'm already here. Like, I need some other people either to keep me in line, to help make sure that I am like reaching out, to know that I can add a little joy and fun, right? If I know that my dominant color is green, then I'm coming in with a vision, but I need some other people to help me with all the other aspects. Okay, so the next piece, Philomena, the next one is going to be that as I'm, see, this is what happens in the classroom, because Philomena's orange. She's looking at something else. I love her. Philomena, next slide. Said with much love. There we go. See, I know her. But I appreciate her because she's doing a lot at the same time. Okay, so keep in mind, my greens are my vision. Blues are harmony, right? Harmony. My golds are my stabilizers, like they help keep things steady. And my oranges provide some joy, some fun. We need it. We really do. And even if sometimes what I don't want people to see is that people are only this. So I'm saying this as a general note, but please know that people are more than just one of these, right? Like, you might have a color that's right up against it. So my color, this might help you to know. So when I took my test when I was at Cal, that Myers-Briggs, I was like 100% blue, and none of the other colors were there. Pretty much. For blues, they called it something else. It was like the thinker or feeler. And so I was 100% on that F, like no joke. And my boss, Patrick, the part of that story that I didn't share with you was, he sat me down and he said, look, I love that you care and that you care about people. You are in a job where you're going to be getting some feedback, and sometimes that feedback isn't going to be nice. It's going to come from people who come to things. It's going to come from people who are upset about something. And you have to know that it isn't about you. And that one conversation totally changed my life. And so he said to me, I need you to, for the purposes of work, not for your life, but for the purposes of work to build in the other colors that you are lacking, the other areas that you need, so that you actually can hear people and hear what they are trying to tell you. So I worked for the next couple of years when I was working for them on building up my other colors, on trying my best to actually hear what people were saying, not necessarily the way they were saying it to me, and not psychoanalyzing why they were saying it to me, but actually trying to hear the content and learning from that and building things up from there. So then I was a blue, and I built it up. Now my dominant color is green. We all kind of grow in and out of different dominant traits. That happens as you grow up, as you change, as you move, as you meet different people. This will happen in your life. So you could take it a year from now and you might have a different one. I would say typically once you've reached like adulthood and are in a job, like steady, it's not that it's fixed, but you tend to know who you are at that point. And if you're seeking to change that, you could work on that. But I don't know that there's any reason to change a color, right? Like, your color is great because it's yours and we need them all. But if you're looking maybe to find a little more balance or to hear things differently when people are talking to you, then you might want to think about how you interact with others and how you interact with yourself. And that's really what I look to change. So the next slide the next slide is going to take you through this for my analysts and statistical people. This is the breakdown typically of students and teachers, or I would say of adults typically. But I say it this way for my students, and then I actually don't tell them my color. When I get to this slide, I say, what do you think Miss Rothstein is? And they all guess gold. Or blue. They guess one of these two. They never guess green. It's really funny. But maybe it's because I'm like super strategic in how I present things. So students, and I would say in my 9th grade classes, this is general information that came from the breakdown of the survey itself, and not our survey, but like general national, international statistics of the survey. I have personally found in my classes that my 9th grade students in particular, orange tends to be a dominant color in those 9th grade classes. I personally have had fewer golds than oranges. Usually it's that they do not balance each other in a classroom. When I get to the senior level of a class, sometimes those things start to balance. But it really just depends on the makeup. And usually blue and green are pretty much aligned in terms of numbers. And what I do when I look at a classroom is I actually analyze the whole class. So when I'm talking to a class, I will say, once I know everybody's color, I'll go, this is a really interesting class. We have, and I'll name out what are my fewest color. So let's say I have a class with very few blues. I will make sure to praise my blues. And I will say, this class only has 3 blues. Do not hurt them. Make them feel valued. Help them. Tell them you want them in your team because you do. So fight over them. You know, like I will help those that are the fewest in a category understand in the classroom why they are needed, because sometimes they can feel alone if they're the only ones. Sometimes I only have 1 gold in a room, and I often have to pull that kid aside and say, I promise it's going to be okay. Because they're like looking at all these other colors and going, this is chaos. This is chaos. And so they just need to know it's going to be okay. So slip them some information, some pre-information, and then they will be happy. Okay, so the next slide, Philomena. The next piece is really going to be how you can apply it. So I actually think about, I use this in a variety of ways. I teach English in my class. I also chair a pathway. So I actually, when we're analyzing a novel, a book, anything, I ask what color do we think the characters are and why. We used to start at our school with Ender's Game as the opening summer read for 9th grade. And I would often begin with the essay around like that they defend what color they think Ender is. And then the next one is when I think about history, right? History classes, if you're doing any sort of analysis of history, thinking about like the leader in a situation, how are they acting? How are they reacting? How would that tell you what their color is? We've even done, so my pathway connects English, history, and science. So our science teacher in our pathway, right? Like the elements, what color is that element, right? Like actually asking them to analyze a personality trait of an element and then defend it, right? So really starting to personify things and help them to get how can they do that, and using it throughout the year, because it helps make it real. If you do it as a one-time thing and don't return to it, it won't be useful for anyone. I have also done this where if your students are younger and they, let's say they're not writing or doing it as like actually writing it on a survey would be overwhelming. I have read some of the questions, but used language that I knew would be useful to my students. And I've asked them to do almost like a four corners kind of assessment where I physically had them stand up and say, if you feel like this applies to you, or a line exercise, right? Most of the time, some of the time, none of the time. You're going to go to this side, this place, okay? So that's how I would do it for elementary, is I would actually ask them to think about those questions, and I would physically move them in a space. And when they've moved in that space, I would have a sticker, okay? I would have a sticker that I would give them of a particular color, and I would help them know. So if they went over to that side, I would give them a sticker of that color to hold on to or to put on a note card. And then if they didn't, don't give them the sticker. And when they move over to like fully over, yes, 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 give them a sticker of that particular color. Like what question is it and what color is it? And then when they put it on that note card, they've got a variety of, they then have, okay, what do you have the most of on your note card? And that's the color you are. You can help guide them through it. I know if you're an elementary school teacher, you can totally do that. So, okay, so then after that, the next piece, Philomena. So we've got our uses now. You can use it in a variety. You can use it with a variety of grade levels. But then this next part, so some of you are probably asking, how can I do this? So I want to guide you through how you can use this. I have a folder that's here. You'll want to make a copy. You want to make a copy of the contents of this folder. So inside the folder is going to be a variety of things. And Louise is amazing. And so there's going to be examples in there. There'll be this presentation. There'll actually be this Google Doc that like takes you through what I was saying for each of the colors, plus more. There will, in addition to that, be the survey and the sheet. So one warning is if you're making a copy, it says it on the document itself, and Luis tried his very best to help you know what to do. And I went back through and said, copy this and don't copy this. So you'll want to make a copy of the sheet, and that sheet will then also create a copy of the form. If you copy them separately, they're not going to be connected to each other. So copy the sheet. You won't need to copy the form. And then hopefully then you can do this with your own team, your own group. If any of you, I realize I didn't put a paper copy of it because what I've always done, but if you look up Ketterman survey, you will find a paper version, and I can add it later. It just won't be in there if you've already made your copy golds. So I will get to it. So just know that, but you have everything that I've done today. And then my next one, Philomena, my next slide, beyond that, what I think I want to do is, I know that there's time for feedback. I haven't, you are welcome to do feedback. I'm going to look back through, and maybe Robin alert me. Were there particular questions? I know there was one about elementary students that I got to, but are there other ones that would help for anybody else before I close out? Anybody else? I'm looking back through. I see you all in here. And the other piece that I love is like the people who like came in so boldly saying their color. I love you all. Robin, did you see any questions that I didn't get to yet?
No, I think you pretty much nailed all of them.
Okay. And then the other piece that I've seen out there, but I didn't do, was sometimes people will share like what famous people or people from history, like certain colors that would align with them. Some students, especially younger students, might really connect well with that too. But I left it out of this because honestly, like I don't want people to only see themselves as either a certain career or a certain type, because there is some of that information, like certain colors tend to go into certain professions or tend to do certain things, but I actually limit that. I personally like try to let some of that stuff go because I think we need all of us everywhere. We might gravitate somewhere naturally, but I think it's better when you have more people of a variety. So I try, there might be some natural tendencies, but I try not to perpetuate things or push students into feeling like they only can be a certain thing. So I don't give them that, especially for my students, I don't give them that. One other thing I do that I forgot to say, yes, okay. I use this with my staff, Lisa. I use this with my parents. So at back to school night, I give the parents this. I forgot to tell you that. I give the parents this at back to school night, and I say, I did this with all of your students. And then I tell them a couple of the key explanations, like really quick. And they all start to turn to each other and they're like, oh, my kid's a total green. Oh yeah, I have a blue for sure. Oh, you know, and they're like sitting there, they're totally doing that. And then I ask them, after you take this, I want you to think about how you talk to your student. How do you talk to your own child? And are you talking to them in a way that they will understand you? And sometimes kids talk to their parents way different than they would talk to me as a teacher. I mean, you all know that. But I ask them at least for a moment to step back and go, are they able to hear you? And so I do that with my parents, my staff. We talk about it. My team, we talk about it. We will sit there and go like, oh, you're a total gold. Oh yeah, you're an orange. We do that all the time. But in a way that's praiseworthy. Like, I need your help with this because you will get me in line. I need your help with this. How will people think about this? You know, what would somebody say if they saw it? So, so I use them for their strengths for sure. If I could dream it, everybody would wear a t-shirt that's their color, necklaces that are their color. So I know who I'm talking to before I walk up to them, but I can't do that. So I got to like get a little bit in. Once we've actually got to know each other, then I start to realize like, they're guided by their heart, or they're guided by like knowing that I can back up what I'm saying, or they're guided by knowing that I follow the rules, right? Like, what is it that guides this person, that drives them? Yeah, you won't look at people differently. So the using it with parents, they love it. I then had students do Flipgrid, where we have QR codes. They talk through the projects that they're doing and their color and how their color aligns with themselves. And then when parents come to back to school night, they get a note card that has info on their student that the student's written, a QR code that has that video that they can take with them. There's a blog that I wrote about that too, but that's often used by people who do Flipgrid. And I read that somewhere else and loved it, but I added the personality color to it. And that was super helpful for parents. And they walked away going like, oh, now I know something more about this class and my kid. And that was great. So with that, I want to say thank you all for being here. And I know that some of the other presentations may have given you lots and lots of info, but I hope that this provided you with a specific thing that you can do with your students or your staff or your teams. I've been to many of these kinds of presentations in my lifetime. And there are companies that put them on, but I often like to pull it down, like get it down to the most simplified information. So for me, some of those ones where it gives you lots of letters, like I get lost in it. People don't know how to interpret it. So at least this one, there's some gray area. And if you're multicolors, there's all different analyses around multicolors. If you are aligned, like if you're blue-green or you're orange-gold, which is like the rarest of combos. But if you are, and I know I saw some people that are, right, then an orange gold is going to be somebody that can get up at the last minute or can get up and be impromptu when they need to, but they're totally planned. Like, it's like, how does that happen? I don't know, but it's amazing. And so like for me, I'm definitely green, and right there is blue. So while greens often might be thought of as without heart, I've got the blue to fill in that gap. So it's interesting. Yes, analyze your pets. Do it. Analyze the world. You'll walk around people in the supermarket. You're like, oh yeah, total. Fill in the color instead of calling them a mean name, right? There you go. So so that's what you do. And I would say, right, like you go about your life with strategy, right? There was a reason I would go with my husband to the supermarket and he would tell me I was putting things on the conveyor belt wrong. So as a green, I said, there's no need for this. My strategy is I just won't come to the supermarket anymore. It's perfectly fine. He told me I didn't need to come. So less fighting. I don't need to go. He has his way. I'm totally fine with that. Like, really am. Like, I wasn't mad at him. But because he actually told me, and I was like, oh, that'll save me some time in my life. I just need to know what to do that will help you help me. You know, like the why behind it. So that's helped me a lot. And I really do try to take myself out of stuff. So with that, I would like to say thank you. The key to life, my youngest daughter just came in. So that means this presentation is now over. Eliza, you want to say bye to everybody?
Bye.
Okay, and we're going to go to our outro video with my middle daughter. My oldest isn't in one because she's too cool for school right now. So we'll go to that. And then if there's anything else, you are more than welcome to follow up. You can find me on Twitter if we're not already connected, and I'm happy to help in any way. Bye, everybody.
Mommy. Thank you for joining us at this Global GEG event. You can watch this recording as many times as you want. Visit our website or Twitter for more information. Don't forget to join our Google group. Don't forget to fill out the feedback form. Thank you for joining us at this Global GEG event.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for coming.
Bye.